here.
All checked and in.
Yes.
All right, Chaz Smith, it is May 3rd, 2024, 2 days prior to Cinco de Mayo.
But also David Lee Scales, one day prior to the most annoying new kind of faux holiday of all, May 4th. May the 4th be with you, David Lee Scales.
Oh, geez. That didn't even dawn on me. Are you
Man.
celebrating?
No, heck no. And I see May the 4th be with you stuff everywhere. I see more May the 4th be with you, more Star Wars with a lisp themed material going around than I do even like drunk tequila worms on the floor.
Could you imagine if May the 4th be with you overtakes Cinco de Mayo in popularity in the
We are
US?
on the way. That shows the state of weird nerdiness in America that May the 4th people get such a giddy little spike from saying May the 4th be with you that it's
I've
going to
got
beat one of our great drinking holidays.
I've got a reveal for you here on air. I've never seen a single Star Wars movie.
Whoa. That is insane, David Lee Scales. That is
I've
like you've read The Stranger by Albert Camus, I'm sure.
No, I have
Oh,
not.
you can make some room for that. But The Stranger by Albert Camus, he gets basically ostensibly arrested and executed for murder because he didn't cry when his mother died. That was the like major the major reason. I think that if the authorities found out that you have not seen one single frame of Star Wars, you would get arrested and executed for something that you've done wrong. They'll find
It's
something.
I mean, the way that it's going with this holiday gaining popularity, that is a good possibility.
You're on the
Um,
way.
so not a single movie nor any of the TV versions that they've been doing now on Disney. I
How
think
did you miss it round one as a kid?
when I was a kid, I think I saw moments of it,
Yeah.
but I didn't. I mean, I was too young probably to go to the theater to sit through a 2 hour movie. Then when it was on VHS, there's a good possibility like my brother was playing it. It was somewhere in the house and I stumbled, into the room at the time, but I've never sat and watched it from beginning to end. I couldn't tell you anything about it. And then at a certain point, I felt like it was a badge of honor, so I've actively avoided it.
Avoided it. It was the first time I've cried in a movie theater at Empire Strikes Back. I sat there weeping in the seat at the thinking that Han Solo had died.
Wow.
Yep.
And he didn't die? I don't even
Nope.
know the storyline.
Nope. He got
Okay.
frozen in some kind of rock or something.
How old were you?
I was probably, must have been four or
Okay.
five, something like that. Four, probably.
Hard to control your emotions when you're that age.
I mean, especially when you wa are watching your great hero. Yeah, like to your young mind die on screen.
Totally.
Yep.
So I also have not seen a Fast and the Furious movie.
Ooh, not one of them?
Not one. I thought about binging it at some point. Like I'm gonna, you know, not that I'd ever have the time to do this, but take a weekend at some point and
And
just
watch
watch
all
all of
seven
them.
or
Yeah.
however many. You know what I kept hearing good things about that I missed, but kept
Mm.
hearing good things about, and so have start like it's a real half start, but I need one of these binge weekends that you're talking about is the John Wick franchise.
It's excellent.
I know, that's all I've heard. I've heard that, like it is an phenomenal, and I haven't purposely missed it. I just happen to miss them, but I
Yeah.
keep trying to. Okay, I know I need to, and I keep trying to start, and I'm just having real like I'll get like 45 minutes in, and then something will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I generally don't, go out of my way to watch action movies like that, big budget action movies, but I watched the first John Wick a few years ago. I was like amazed that it lived up to the hype. And then on a flight recently, I watched the most recent one and
Yeah.
it was equally as good.
I mean, I've heard nothing but great things. I already like Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves has aged as an actor like the finest of wines. He just, and every part of him, not just his roles that he chooses and whatnot, but like I saw a photo recently, he and his, I think, longtime girlfriend
Yeah.
on the red carpet somewhere, just looking the very picture of what you want him to be. Where who would have ever guessed that Ted from Bill and Ted's or that I don't know, Johnny Utah from Point Break would have become the iconic man of our time.
Well, I'm going to make an argument that he's not a great actor, but he over delivers somehow. Like he picks roles that really don't require much range and then just over delivers on those roles. He's got a charisma despite having, no depth, let's say, of character of emotional kind of effusiveness,
Yeah,
no
he's
way
not
to
like
show.
weeping on screen.
Never,
Yeah.
But he's got a real charisma. So like I love to see him. I love to see him do well. And then as a human being and a person, he seems to be amazing.
Yeah, he seems to wear his fame as good or better than anyone I've ever seen wear their fame.
Totally agree. Like despite him not being a great actor, I want to see him in films and I want him to do well in life.
Yep.
Well, so Cinco de Mayo, are you partying? Are you what's your Cinco de Mayo plan?
Nope. I usually every once in a while it will catch me, right? I will be somewhere, not on Cinco de Mayo usually, but usually on Tuesday. I will be somewhere thinking, oh, I'm just gonna go get a taco, and then go somewhere, and the line will be like out the door, and I'll be like, "What's
Yeah,
going
I
on?
hate that.
I just wanted to eat a taco, man," and then realize, "Oh, Taco Tuesday. Here I am on Taco Tuesday." And so sometimes Cinco de Mayo catches me that way as well, but I
Yeah.
usually am not trying to. Not that I mean, love Mexico the most, love Mexico. And I know all our dear Mexican listeners that this is not your 4th of July. I know that it's celebrating a small skirmish somewhere or whatever it was for Cinco de Mayo. It's not the Alamo, is it? No.
Dude, I don't even know what it is.
It's something. It was some like Spanish American War fight they won or something. It ain't Independence Day for Mexico. It's like a
So we're celebrating them getting independence from, or not independence, but a war that they beat over us.
I don't even know if it's us. It might have been against the Spanish.
Oh, got it, got it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. Well, I should have done my Cinco de Mayo research, but the one thing that comes up every Cinco de Mayo that I think about, and then I think about it on each ends of Cinco de Mayo, is that old chestnut of a t-shirt that I'm sure you catch every once in a while still, raggedy probably these days, but the one tequila, two tequila, three tequila floor t-shirt. Have you seen that one? Like
With
around
a
Cinco de
worm that's drunk.
Exactly, with the drunk worm. And around Cinco de Mayo, I think, okay, that shirt is specifically made for like booze hounds, right? Probably used to be the ones who would go to, Papa's and whatever
Yeah,
in Papa's and beer down in Ensenada or
yeah.
any of those, any of the, I don't know, Cancun or Cabo, like Cheney kind of get wasted restaurants. That's the shirt for them, right? And I always think you guys are probably hard drinkers. You guys are probably like the ones who are down there boozing it up in Mexico, like boozing. Like you're going to booze and then you're buying a t-shirt. That's how much you like boozing. And you guys are passing out drunk after three tequilas is like, what's you guys' problem, man? Like one tequila, two tequila, three tequila floor. You are passed out after three tequilas.
It is amazing that what made an impression on you most about that shirt was that it only took 3 tequilas to get somebody to pass out.
Exactly. I'm like, you guys need to stop buying the t-shirt and go work on your drink game a little bit. Go work it out, go flex. And then so somebody's just one tequila, two tequila, three tequila, four tequila, five tequila, 14 tequila, 40 tequila. Oh, floor. There he goes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true though, because those are Midwesterners who generally drink, let's say, Natty Light or Bud
Yeah.
Light. They took a cruise, a carnival cruise, and this is their first time to Mexico. It's the first time tequila has touched their lips, and that is why the third one is putting them down.
And I suppose in a context, the bathtub size margarita glasses at some of
I
these
know.
places that are, and not even that much tequila in there, the amount of sugar is what's putting them on the floor.
Totally.
They are in diabetic shock, is what's happening.
Exactly. So Google tells me that Cinco de Mayo marks the anniversary of May 5th, 1862 Battle of Puebla
There
and
we
the
go,
victory
Puebla.
by Mexican troops over French
There
troops.
we go. There we go.
I can celebrate that.
Yes,
I'm cool with
Puebla,
that.
Mexico beating down the French in a small little town,
Yeah,
Puebla.
I like it. I'm
Yeah.
going to dig into this story more. It feels like this will be a great story.
Well, when I think
Um,
that in this like fraught day and age of political tensions and whatnot, like if you really go all out on 4th of July, say, people are going to look at David Lee Scales and say, David Lee Scales, that guy's a MAGA dude, right? He is a real right winger. If you like really start flying your flag, and not that you don't necessarily want to be branded as that, but maybe that's not who you really are. It's hard to find a like national celebration that you can get behind without being branded in a way that you maybe don't want to be branded, right? Cinco de Mayo, Mexico beating French in like a small, it's all game on. Let's
Exactly.
we should make Cinco de Mayo like our true proper holiday. You and I should
Well,
go all in on Cinco.
I'm not against it, but look, I'm down for St. Patrick's Day as well. There's a
Yep.
bunch of other like kind of cultural holidays that I'm down to celebrate that I wouldn't want to prioritize one over the other necessarily. And I think that the example of 4th of July as a reference is the distinction there is that America is a superpower. And so it's kind of gauche to
Rub it in
go
your
out there and
we're
fly your
number
flag and
one.
be, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm better than all you guys. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, you guys,
We know. We
we
know.
get it. We get it.
Yeah.
So it feels the patriotism feels like a bullying in a little sense. And you're right. There is kind of the Trump analogy that also you may or may not want to be associated with. Cinco de Mayo, look, everybody can get behind that. The other thing is it's so specifically tied to food and drink. Like, and
Yes.
not any food and drink, but specifically a
Mexican food.
margarita and a taco. And
Yes.
like with St. Patrick's Day, yeah, they got Guinness and the color green, but there isn't a food. Like
Corned beef hash. What are you talking about?
okay, corned beef hash, but also shepherd's pie, but also bangers and
Yum.
mash, but also there's
Yum.
all these things that yeah, they're all
Heavy.
great. They all come with it, but none are as specific as the taco margarita pairing.
Well, and let's be honest too. None of those, a Guinness and shepherd's pie equals nap. It doesn't, I mean, one tequila, one Guinness, one shepherd's pie, floor. Uh, it is not like the celebratory nature, both in color, in flavor, in all of it, of like some tacos and some margaritas. And also, maybe you're not that hungry for a taco. Get a good guacamole on a chip. Like
Mm,
Mexican, the ways to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, all of it is celebratory, like by its very nature, in its color, in its taste. Every bit of it says party time, fun party time
completely.
with family.
Also, I disagree with you. Maybe you're not hungry enough for a taco. That is the beauty of tacos. A taco can be this big and
Sure.
tiny, and you can have five of them. And then, or you can have three of them, depending on how hungry you are. It's almost the perfect food because it services any time of day, any level of appetite. There's a variety of different styles and flavors. It's kind of amazing.
I'll tell you what I peeled hard off of that I used to go for every time in a Mexican establishment is the burrito.
Oh, yeah.
Burritos in this age, in this time in my life, I'm like, I can't even imagine. Can somebody please just make a half-sized burrito for me?
Yeah.
Like, I can't do a full burrito. Those things, a giant brick. I can't do it, man.
Burritos did go rogue. Like they think bigger is better.
Yep.
And so there's now football sized burritos and they're proud of it. And I
No,
fully
it's too
agree with you.
much. It's too much.
Up until the age of 25, I was all burrito, no taco. And I did a real flip. And now it's like the burrito I don't ever need to see again. Taco is far superior. And it's actually the right ratio of things with the tortilla. You know what I mean?
What I miss about the burrito, though, that the taco can never capture is the way burrito captures the juice, the jus in there. Like when you get to the bottom of a burrito and you have the jus puddle in the bottom of your burrito while you're still eating it, nothing could be finer than that. The problem is just give me the jus bottom. That's all I want.
There's a business idea. Remember Elaine making top of the muffin?
Yes, exactly.
So
Exactly.
calling back Seinfeld's influence in our life, they sold just the muffin tops
Yeah.
and they got rid of the stump, gave them to the homeless people, and just served the top of the muffin. And the
Yep.
business was called Top of the Muffin. You need a bottom of the burrito
I need
business.
absolutely completely. And I mean, have you ever had a King Taco burrito?
No.
King Taco's a limited chain up in LA, but
Yeah.
they're like they have whatever their meat is so juicy, and you get an all meat one, right? So it's only meat in this burrito. It's an all meat burrito, but by the time you get to the bottom, it is honestly the best thing you've ever had in your life. But you got to get to that bottom. Back to bottom of the burrito. Here we go.
Yeah. Trader Joe's has like the drumstick style ice cream cones
Hmm.
where it's like dipped in the top's dipped in chocolate and you get to the bottom of the drumstick the waffle cone has like a little bit of nugget of chocolate at the bottom of it. Well, now they sell just the nuggety bottoms,
Yep, nuggety bottoms.
So
Man,
they're
yeah.
onto it.
I mean, it's
But
the way to
bottom of
go.
the
It's the way to,
burrito.
it's like the way to not go to all our dear restaurateur listeners, those dear listeners who are, yeah, involved in the food trade. Bigger is never better. Bigger is never better.
It was a
Like,
failed experiment by the Americans.
oh my goodness. I heard some dude yesterday, was riding the train from LA. Some, I mean, we've talked about this, loud train talkers, or we've done a full segment, I believe, talking on your phone in public spaces. This dude was jibber jabbering to his friend, so I could hear, had to hear everything. In any case, he was describing a restaurant, and the first thing he said, it was great. His first, great. The portions were great. I'm like, you fat ass, you dumb, you're gross. Get off this train, you and your portions.
Um, I was final thought on Mexican food is I was raised on, I mean, in Southern California, it's really Mexican food is everywhere,
Ubiquitous.
ubiquitous, but it is also an Americanized version of Mexican food. And so I got to the point where I totally detested it because it's the same five ingredients wrapped in a different form, basically. And then everything is covered with either red sauce or green sauce and melted cheese. And then there's beans and rice on the side. And so I just got to the point where I'm just like, this is all a gut bomb and it's not good. And it's all the flavors are just smashed together. And then I got older where I began to appreciate or learn about Mexico food. Like
Yeah.
not Mexican American
Mexican.
food, but
Yeah.
Mexico food, food from Mexico, and realize, holy cow, it is one of the great cuisines on the planet.
I mean,
Like
by
it,
far and away, you could stack Mexican, proper Mexican cuisine. The only problem I have with Mexican cuisine is back to what you, and it's going to be controversial, David Lee Scales. We're going to get some cancellations here. We're going to get some listeners who don't come back. I hate capital HATE beans and rice. I hate beans and rice. Hate it. Don't put it on my plate. Get it out.
yeah,
What's it? It's bland,
it's
tasteless, not
it's
good.
it's sustenance is all that it is. It's like, look, if you have a huge family to feed and you need caloric intake, boom, it's cheap.
Great for that. And I worked in Mexico for one summer, dug ditches in Mexico on at an orphanage. And it was a poor orphanage, as you can imagine, orphanages in Mexico are. And so every night it was only beans and rice, and I was totally fine with it there. Like if this is what I'm eating for fuel to fall into bed and then wake up the next morning and start digging ditches again, then I'll have that. But do not put it alongside my taco.
Was this a mission trip?
It was yeah, like my uncles had a Mexican orphanage or were involved with a Mexican orphanage. So I
Wow.
spent, but it was like, I think everybody scratched their heads at the end of it. It was me and my cousin and a buddy, and it was like, honest to goodness, funny, but it was like slave. I mean, we'd wake up, I think we'd get like the revelry at like 6 in the morning or something, and we had to dig. It was actually digging a foundation out for a new building they were building. But we were
Wow.
like, so we dig, it was like hard ground. It was just us all day, all day. We would dig. Eventually we dug like down 6, 7 feet. So here we are, like 6, 7 feet under, in an earthquake prone area. And it's probably in retrospect, lucky or not, that there wasn't just a little shake of the earth and collapse it all right on our heads. We weren't like forming it up in any way, shape, or form. We were just in this giant trench, just digging.
Children who were
Yep.
also operating as the engineers of the
Yep.
dig itself. Well, 25 minutes into the show, let's get into some surfing. I
Let's do it.
became a convert yesterday. We were talking about Paul on the road to Damascus last week.
Yes.
I was struck yesterday and had a
What
conversion experience.
I saw it. I saw your conversion experience and thought, what in the world is this? What in the
Yeah,
world? This has to be fake, is what I thought. I
I'm
thought there's
wondering
no way.
what are you referencing now? Because you have no idea what I'm talking about.
I'm pretty sure I do, David Lee Scales. I am pretty sure I do. You
Okay.
got on to Kelly Slater's petition to get him
Oh,
into Tahiti, and you wrote a heartfelt and earnest like plea, let him surf in Tahiti. It's going to be good for us. It's going to be good for the sport. It's going to be good for Kelly. Let Kelly surf. You
did
wrote
I
it out under
convince you?
your own name. Well, I was confused initially because I saw Thomas Carroll before you. It's like, that can't be Tom Carroll. Is it? Why would somebody fake this, right? There wasn't that many. And then I saw David Scott. I was like, well, what is this? And so then I was I, I was just kerflummoxed by the whole thing. Of course, the argument for letting Kelly surf is great. And if it was a World Surf League Olympic thing, then I'd say yes, there's no rules, it doesn't matter. But with the Olympics, there are rules. And not that I care or like the Olympics, but it is like Olympics demeans itself entirely by making loopholes for greats. The whole point, even though we know it's corrupt, we know it's all of these things, but at least pretend it's not, right? World Surf League doesn't have to pretend it's not idiotic because it is. Uh, Olympics has to still pretend that there's, I'm sorry, we would have liked him, but he's 50 and absolutely failed to qualify.
Well, I have an argument against you, but let me set the topic by saying there is a change.org petition out to get Kelly Slater into the Olympics. You wrote in the article that Paul Whitaker is the one who created this change.org. His name is James Whitaker,
Oh, oops.
longtime
Potato,
listener of
potato.
the show.
Is he?
Yeah, and
Sweet.
commenter on Beach Grit, I believe, as well, under a different pen name, though, on Beach Grit.
Different handle. I noticed this morning that his change.org petition, or actually, unless maybe there was a groundswell overnight, but last night when I looked, he hadn't even cracked the 200 yet.
Is it? I just checked it today. I think it's about 250 now.
Okay.
Um, but my argument against you and what you're saying about bending the rules is that the rules were poorly designed to create entry into the Olympics, anyways. Like, I think that they had to obviously create some sort of a criteria and obviously give all the countries around the world equal access, let's say, to have a path into the Olympics. However, let's get real. If Chopu is 8 feet, there's very few surfers from very few countries who are really qualified to surf that wave. And so it's almost a disservice to surfing and to the viewers and to the Olympics to allow somebody from, let's say, I don't want to name a country and put somebody on blast, but somebody from a non-surfing country to
Mexico.
to surf in the Olympics at Chopu when it's that big. So it's a failed qualification system, I would say, if you fully understand surfing. And if they really wanted to design a format to allow the best, the Olympics are, let's put the best athletes in a given sport against one another and see who rises to the top. There is no surfer on the planet who is more qualified to showcase that than Kelly Slater at Chopu.
I hear you, A, and B, I mean, the whole thing, what it really does is pour even more shame upon the World Shame League in terms of the thing is built for lower trestles, right? The thing is built to get you to lower trestles. Well, they built the qualification system for the Olympics too, right? There's like it's these different contests without any consideration of the waves. Like they should have invented,
Totally.
okay, if it's going to be Chopu is going to be where it's at, then our qualification there's going to be 4 Grand Slams to get you qualified for the Olympics. It's not going to be the World Surf League stuff, right? And those 4 slams, if your Olympic wave is Chopu, is going to be Cloud Break, it's going to be
Chopu,
Pipe, it's going to be Chopu, and where else? There's like three
Greenbush, and
Greenbush, sure,
Dewey.
exactly. Like it's got to be a heavy, doesn't all have to be lefts, I think. Let's not make it super unfair. Let's throw Pipe in there for the one where you can go right if you want. But otherwise, Cloud Break, Green bushes, right? Green bush and chopu. And then now you have like, yeah, because somebody, I mean, again, look who we have. We have Felipe Toledo, the coward Felipe Toledo, the rotten coward who, what was the longest name of the movie ever? The coward who killed Jesse James,
Oh, the
whatever.
assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Yes, this whole thing is going to be the decimation of professional surfing by the coward Felipe Toledo will be what the subline, the byline for the Olympics is. And
I
that's,
love
but
that. I love that movie, by the way.
great movie. It's like
Such a
real
good movie.
slow and subtle. Nice. Uh, but yeah, like the problem is the qualification does not take into account at all where they might end up, assuming that any good surfer can surf any wave well, which I think up until Felipe Toledo, you could almost say, sure, right? Some serve better than others at those like proper places. Felipe
Yeah.
Toledo is the only one in my awareness who's a top tier surfer who is an absolute spineless baby and cannot surf certain waves.
Yeah, it was a real nexus point with Felipe because prior I mean, from my youth, I'd say even back to like well before my youth, but you had to, um, you wouldn't even be called a good surfer until you were tested in big waves in the winter in on the North Shore. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you weren't even, it didn't matter what you could do anywhere else in the world. The North Shore was the proving ground, and you had to prove yourself probably repeatedly for years on end to then kind of be ranked in the upper echelon of quote good surfers. That slowly flip-flopped until Felipe Toledo became the fully nexus point where it was like you don't even have to go there and you can be world champ,
I
you
mean,
know.
I feel the yin yang. The yin to Toledo's yang is Joey Brand, where you got like California beach breaky kid who goes and guts it out at Pipeline, right? Like figures out not only how to throw himself over the ledge, but how to do it, pipe master style, like how to actually conquer that wave,
I
if that wave can be conquered.
I don't want to fully disagree with you. I agree with you, but I think an even better point is all the Florida guys from Kelly to the
Sure.
Hobgoods, Todd
Lopez's,
Holland. Yeah.
yeah.
So Lopez's for sure. So they kind of sum that up beautifully. Well, we will post the change.org petition. Did you sign it? Is the question.
No, but now that I know that it's dear James Whitaker, not Paul, like that, Paul and I had beef, but now that I know that it's James Whitaker, I will sign for him.
Back on board. Um,
But that wasn't your road to Damascus moment.
that was not. There was a different one. I guess I've had two this week. I've had a really transformative week.
What do you got?
I became a fan of Paul Fisher.
Oh, of course you did. Of course you did. The fact that you weren't a fan before, let's turn back the flip back the calendar a bit. Sitting around the table at our dear friend Kevin Miller's home called Mar-a-Lago, uh, where remember when I forced everyone around the table to listen to DJ Fish? Not ironically, I love Fish's music.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Love
So
every part of him.
I've had a real topsy turvy love hate relationship with Fisher, the artist formerly known as DJ Paul Fisher. And I loved Fishtails back in the day when he surfed for Reef, and then he would do like a YouTube interview thing on the beach, and he was just hilarious, and he'd interview people. I loved that comedy bit. When he went DJ, I was like, man, this music is not my style of music. And he is the obnoxiousness that he had that was funny on camera, he turned up to 11.
Yep.
And he just became like that was his brand, was to be obnoxious. And the more fame that he got as a DJ, the more he ratcheted that obnoxiousness up. And so at a certain point, I had to really just part ways. I was like, man, I really can't even watch
Bah.
when he comes up on Instagram and he's like got his bucket hat and his
Bah, bah, bah,
sunglasses
bah, bah,
on and he's
bah,
starts
yeah.
sticking his tongue out. I'm just like, dude, scroll. I can't scroll fast enough. Get this away. But I was still following, because I just wanted to see where it all went. So when
It went
WSL
good.
started advertising this week that they were going to have, quote, Fisher and friends have a free surf session at the Snapper event, the CS event, I was like, you know what? Good on the WSL for at least making this fun again, like creating a
Yeah.
festival type environment. And it's not all about scores. Let's do something fun. And who's more fun than Paul Fisher, right?
Nobody.
Nobody. So I was kind of okay. I kind of applauded the WSL for making it fun again. And then, but I was like, I'm also not going to watch because it's Fisher. And then I thought, here's the one way that Fisher could like really do good by me is to ride the dick board. Because there's a famous video from 10 years ago of him riding a surfboard shaped like balls and a penis. It's not just a dick board, it's balls too, which is kind of a bold move in terms of surfboard design. It's a radical design to incorporate the balls. And I was like, if he does that, that would be such a poke in the eye of the WSL. The WSL took a risk by including Fisher in this because he could go rogue, but there's no way that Fisher will do that, right? Fisher did it.
Epically.
He rode the
Epically.
dick board in an event yesterday at the WSL CS event.
I woke up this morning to basically only messages of people screenshotting it, with just like applause all around, right? And I mean, it is magnificent for many reasons. One, the Fisher's brand is bigger than the WSL. His personal brand is bigger than the WSL. He is
Totally.
like a way bigger star than all of professional surfing is. So he could fully do things like that. And WSL just has to suck it up because they did Fisher and Friends, and great. Why wouldn't you want, if you're Paul Fisher, why wouldn't you want to surf probably your favorite wave, or at least the wave you grew up surfing with just your buddies, usually packed to the gills where you're fighting out there and blah, 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 blah. Fish out there with his buddies. But also, I'm sure if you're Fisher, you're thinking, KWSL, very appreciative of the 30 minutes that I get to, or 40 minutes, or whatever it was, that I get to surf out here with my bros. Also, you're fully drafting off me for my fan base. Don't think I don't know that. And don't think I'm not going to do exactly both what I want and what my fan base expects of me, which,
Totally.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing though. Fish's good natured lack of, yeah, like he's just funny and he does this stuff in a way that is funny. And so, if the World Surf League, I didn't catch it live. Did you watch it live?
No,
Well, I just post. I mean, it's up on Beach Crit now. You can go see the whole Fisher and Friends clip or whatever. WSL posted it, and so I don't like. I scrubbed it and tried to find where he was actually on that board. He didn't paddle out on that board, right?
I don't know. I have not seen video of it. I feel like they're not going to release the video of it.
I think it's there. I think it's online. I mean, they have the Fisher and Friends thing, and I saw him, I think, coming in on it,
Yeah,
laying
when
prone, but I couldn't find where he actually, like, he went out on a jet ski and got it. But in any case, yeah, I'm curious. Did they comment on it? Did they say, "Oh, Fisher," or like, what did they do from the booth? Because they were commenting on it. I mean, it was Blakey and the boys, or
yeah,
I think it was Blakey and Felicity and whoever else was in there.
I've only seen so the clip that they showed on Instagram was him paddling out on the for the heat on a
Thruster.
J on a GS yeah,
Yeah.
JS thruster, not the dick board. But then I've seen screenshots of him surfing the dick board in the heat. So yeah, I don't know where it came from, but the clip that they posted on Instagram was them just like running through the crowd to paddle out for the heat, not the actual surfing.
Yes. And so I'm just curious as to how it was what like chatted about
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
booth
yeah.
because I would like to hold out some minor hope. I mean, Blakey is a great dude, right? He's funny. Like you stick him in the booth and everything gets drained away. But in person, they're great dudes. And so I still have small hope that the World Surf League will eventually say, okay, look at not that many people are watching. And let's be honest, nobody's watching this thing. Have you got on and looked at like the YouTube numbers while it's going?
No.
And yesterday was like pumping, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday was proper firing. Like the swell was a little wonky, but really good snapper. And I mean, I think at the top when I looked, it was like, and I know there's people accessing from different points and whatnot, but it was like, I don't know, 5,000 people or something watching concurrently, so if the World Surf League was smart, they would just know nobody's watching this. Let's just finally have some fun. Let's see. It's not like we can get any worse. Let's see if we can maybe get better by letting people have like PG-13 fun.
It would be amazing. Like Ronnie Blakey, first of all, I heard Peter King say in his podcast that he does with Barton Lynch, the Stoked Bloke, he said that it's written into their contract. He was talking about Joe Turpel specifically, but he said it's written into the commentator's contract that they're not allowed to speak negatively about, I think he said specifically the judging.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to criticize the judging. And if they do, that is a fireable offense. So there are some things that are off limits, but what would have been incredibly cool and savvy of Ron Blakey is to make dick jokes that were subtle.
Yep.
Like if Paul Fisher is trying to go vert, he can't get it up. Like
Boom.
look, Paul Fisher, oh, he can't quite get it up to the top of the wave. Stuff like that could have been amazing.
Really funny, and maybe I'm going to hold out hope. I'm going to go after this chat. I'm going to go scrub and find where I think Fish went to the beach because he comes out with it on a jet ski. So at some point he pretended to break his board or did break his board and needed a caddy, needed his backup. And lo and behold,
I love that the dick board that he surfed 10 years ago still exists in his quiver. Like he's holding on to that thing for a special occasion. And yesterday was the special occasion.
it's odd to me though. I mean, it really, I think I'm going to go ahead and say it. And Britt Merrick, don't be upset. Don't be upset, Matt Biolis. But he rips that thing, which makes me question
Surf's again.
all of surfboard design up to this point. If you can put balls where your squash tail or your, pintail or whatever your your fish, uh, no pun intended, tail, if you can put two round balls there and still rip, then let's be honest, is surfboard design and shaping anything?
Shane Haran and Jeff McCoy were onto the laser zap design 30 years ago plus, where it was just like a big wide tail and a pointy nose. And look, Fish is validating it all these years later. It was just a
I'm
phallic surfboard.
I mean, because Fish is not like struggling on it. It's not
No,
like, oh, it's funny, he's going straight. He is like wapowing it.
he's getting it up.
Yeah.
So other WSL news this week was they actually issued an apology about a judging error. They admitted to the error and issued a public apology on Instagram. This came to light after Nat Young posted an Instagram clip of himself ripping the bag out of a wave, needing a score during this event. And then he ended up, he needed a 7 something and he ended up getting like a 4.1. So he posted the clip and just wrote 4.1 with a question mark in the caption. And everybody in the comments, from Julian Wilson to Ace Buchan to current pros, were just like, this is out of control, egregious. That is not a 4-point ride. So the WSL actually took it upon themselves to address it head on. They called Nat in. Nat had a meeting with the head judge, and then they posted the clip on Instagram and wrote an explanation saying, look, we discussed this with Nat, and ultimately we came to the conclusion that it absolutely was not a 4.1, but it still wasn't the 7-point ride that he needed. So the results remain the same, but we wanted to acknowledge our mistake, basically.
And part of me, of course, as is my want, uh, does want to absolutely shame the World Surf League for being further embarrassing themselves in every way possible. But I'm going to refrain David Lee Scales and say, good job, World Surf League. I'm going to say transparency is in any form I can get it from you and yours is a welcome thing, right? I mean, so give it to, yeah, have transparent judging. Just be transparent about it. And there we go.
Totally agree. I think this is a step in the right direction. I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope. I think transparency is better, full stop. But there's a little bit of a slippery slope when it comes to, like, there's going to be controversies in every single event,
I
if
mean, it's
not every
arbitrary.
single
It's
heat.
it's arbitrary to begin with, and so to
Yeah,
pretend it's not, like when you go
true. Yeah, yeah.
egregious, then sure. But yeah, to that point, I guess you've got to live with it anyway. And what could have happened if they would have said it's easy for them to say, yeah, it wasn't the score. Well, what if you deemed it was the score? What you can't go back and change anything. I mean, all this whole thing with a cross sport, right? This is and the World Surf League is smart and or they're not full idiots. They're looking at other sport and they're watching NBA, right? NBA releases like a report card after each game of the calls the refs got right and the calls they missed and what should have happened. It's which is all, and baseball does this too. Everyone does this now. This post event or post thing report card. To what end? You can't, even if you say, yo, yep, Lakers got called for 30 fouls. They should have only gotten called for 5 and actually, whatever, but it doesn't change the outcome of the game. So these after the fact report card things, while transparency is great, I don't get how they're supposed to change. I'd rather not know, to be honest. If I was Nat Young, I would rather not have this readdressed. I would just say, okay, I got fully robbed, and that'd be that.
Well, this actually ties in with a listener email that came through, and I think opens up kind of a broader conversation. He said, hey, David, after watching Stabs, How Surfers Get Paid of women sexualized in surfing, I felt contrite. It deserves much more attention. I was thinking about how surfing can look back and admit wrongs, but these issues were known and acknowledged for years, yet the media and surfing didn't much care. And if you spoke up about it, or if you spoke up about it, you were actually square or you were lame or whatever, you're a party pooper. The same thing is happening with gambling in sports, and it's being promoted more than ever. The same thing with alcohol. There are simultaneously more conversation about its harmful effects and yet more advertising, especially within surfing events. Or what about the homophobia in surfing, especially on the male side? How is it possible that there are no, quote, out pro surfing males? Or is it just that they don't feel comfortable or welcome to actually come out? So, do you agree that this situation is not, or do you agree that this situation, if not addressed, will be seen the same way as yesterday's sins? It's super complex in ways, yet super simple in other ways. Is it worth bringing up on the podcast? Question mark. Love your work. Respect, Johnny.
Is Johnny asking specifically about out gay surfers on tour besides Taylor Wright? Tyler Wright?
I think he is. I don't know if he's specifically asking that. I think he's more asking the question of, why aren't they out? Is it because it's an unsafe environment? And in the future, we'll realize there were a ton of them. They just didn't feel comfortable coming out.
I mean, I don't know. I'm no tour surfer right now, seeing all the proclivities. Uh, but when you look down the line, it doesn't seem like anybody's really hiding, right? I mean, but it is odd to think that there has been not one out CT surfer in my lifetime, like who was on
Male.
tour. Yeah, it's one out male CT surfer who was openly gay while competing, right? Is that true?
I don't know of
At
any.
the CT, I mean, at the upper echelon.
I mean, let's dial Matt Warshaw in right now and figure it out. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I think if like the more kind of I think that if you opened it up to buy, like there's still not one, but there's
Maybe.
gotta be. I mean, we can make an argument that just statistically there's got to be a male gay surfer that is, in the closet over the course of professional surfing, and they probably didn't feel safe coming out. But if you open it up to buy and like whatever's on the spectrum of sexuality other than dominant hetero, then 100% there is somebody, if not actively right now, that just is not making that public for whatever reason.
Who is it, do you think?
I'm not guessing. I'm not playing that game. I'm not playing that game, but I would take Johnny's stance that the reason that they're not out is that it isn't a welcoming environment. Let's say I don't want to say it's not safe. I'd say it's unwelcoming because if you look at any other, I don't know any other sport, but just like in broad culture at large, acting, whatever, there's tons of people who are just like, oh yeah, I've had an experience with homosexuality or I identify as bi now or whatever. Like that is commonplace, and it's just foreign in surfing.
I mean, but I would say I would make the argument that it's less common across sport, right? Or like general sport. I mean, and by general sport, I mean the sport I watch, I suppose. Like, I can't think of, I mean, I know there have been openly gay baseball players and basketball players and football players, but very, 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 very few, right? And surfing as a even microcosm of like a tiny, tiny, tiny thing with tiny participation, even compared to football, baseball, basketball, or anything, right? That odds on or odds are, yeah, like I fully would imagine there's been a party night where it was one tequila, two tequila, three tequila, falling into bed with a same sex partner, but yeah, I
I
don't know.
think
It just seems like the
I'm
amount. It's just a tiny little slice.
I mean, now that I think about it, I think if there was a gay male surfer, now would be the time to come out because you would be more marketable
For
than
sure.
a hetero male
But
surfer. This
but
is the one way to differentiate yourself, actually.
but this has been the conversation. I had this conversation at like 15 years ago at least in the offices of surfing and stab of like man, one of these middle runners could fully pull away from the pack if they came out, right?
Yeah.
Uh and this was 15 years ago and nobody was doing it. Like where it just seems to me that not that there's not, but I'm going to say that there just isn't. I mean, there's people who are not wanting to identify, who probably have had experiences, but don't identify as themselves, right? They don't identify as exclusively homosexual.
Yeah. The other thing here is would do you really want to lead with your sexuality, I guess? Like you want to be known for your surfing. And so regardless of what your sexual proclivities or preferences are, it's nobody else's business. And
Yeah.
and I feel like especially in surfing, there's a certain kind of I don't know, there's a modern surfer. I was gonna say there's a let your surfing do the talking is kind of the ethos, but there is a modern surfer that is the opposite of that, that is just like, I want to be on YouTube and I want to be on Instagram and I want to, um, be a personality. And so in that kind of version of professional surfer, I guess you could use your sexuality to stand out from the crowd and then leverage it to earn money as well.
Well, and I'm sure there is like, I guess our definition of professional surfer is, you don't obviously like you don't have to be on the CT, but it's a real specific criteria, right? Where I'm sure there obviously there's a bunch of gay surfers who get paid to surf and be like, wait a second, why aren't you calling? I'm a gay professional surfer. Like it's just I'm not aware of them. And let's be honest, what's the one criteria that matters, David Lee Scales? Is ripping. And none of them rip. There's no ripping gay surfer.
Or there is, and they haven't posted an Instagram of them kissing their loved one,
I mean,
their
maybe
quote partner.
I am really yeah, I'm dubious. I'm dubious that there is a like full identifying as homosexual
Okay,
ripper.
I was saying 10 minutes ago that I'm not going to play your game of guessing who's who and what's what, but now I am going to play your game. I'm going to put
Okay.
somebody on blast. What about Gabriel Medina being very openly, affectionate
Affectionate.
with his male friends?
Sure, but once again, I think this comes down to a heightened fraught also, but also fluid and changing conversation about defining stuff because let's not talk about Gabriel Medina. Let's just talk about a person who has professional surfer who really rips, who is very physically affectionate and comfortable with friends, who again, as we were talking, may have had an experience or two, but does that experience or two define him as homosexual, right? I think how you define these days as homosexual is if you want to define as that, right? Like I think a fluid sexual experimentation is now and has been for generations, eons. Let's look at the Greeks. Let's look at, I mean, it's, I'm not saying it's right or it's good or it's moral or anything, and let's leave all of that out of this conversation, but it has been happening forever. Uh
Yeah,
and so
totally. And
but
I'm not
it's
jumping
not
on, I'm
often
not,
been defined, right?
and I'm
Like
not trying to. Yeah, I don't want to jump on the grenade of trying to define what is homosexuality or that Gabriel Medina would identify as that thing, but or by my definition of it. But I just he if I wouldn't be surprised if in hindsight Gabriel does openly discuss the fluidity that we're exactly talking about and that there were signs there on his Instagram along the way.
but But again, maybe he or this person, this surfer, is just always like, everybody's trying to make it about. I mean, I get the annoyance, and you also see the annoyance when somebody does come out. Like, let's bring Tyler Wright back up because she is out, and so we can discuss her easily, right? Like, Tyler Wright, I think, is annoying to people, and she's annoying to me, and that is rude, probably at multiple levels that she annoys me. She does things that annoy me. The way she surfs even annoys me, right? Like, she is not my favorite surfer. But is that like, is this why you don't come out? Kind of is like, if she, does she know? Like, if I come out, I'm going to automatically, all these people, they think they're all open-minded. They think they carry no prejudices. They, this, that, and the other thing. They all do. And so I come out, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to be in the firing line of this, that, and the other thing, right?
Yeah, but that's what Johnny's talking about is destigmatizing it by just making it a part of conversation. Like, is there going to be an episode of how surfers get paid in 15 years from now that is going to reflect on it was taboo to even discuss it publicly in surf media? And so you and I are now wading into that water of like, is it okay to acknowledge what they're publishing on Instagram? Is it okay to even talk about their sexuality? Like, this is that gray area.
But I wonder too, I mean, part of me wonders is if we've already reached peak discussion about sexuality, where sexuality as number one personality trait now, like you lead with your pronouns, with your, you know, how you do sex is your number one defining characteristic of your entire being, right?
Yeah.
That's the culture we live in now, which is exhausting. And I wish that would drop down. I wish it would drop down to the I don't care, not to the closeted, not the you better be like me or else, but the let's drop that down to I am a this, and the other thing. And then also, if you care, if you want to know, if you need to know for some reason, here's my sexuality, here's my preferences.
Well, yes, we're on the
Like,
same page. And
I
go
mean,
ahead if you have
surfing is so progressive in some things, right? I think in setting culture, like it is cool in a way that made, a drug culture into a this cool thing. And then,
into an industry, by the way, the
exactly.
drugs specifically into the
Yeah.
industry.
And I think on and off it does, but surfing is also the ultimate backwater in some ways, where I would really hate if surfing got on the, oh, wait, sexuality as leading is cool. Let's all do this now. Just think how annoying it would be if 10 years after the peak of they them, surfing swings in with the yeah would be no, you no 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 no. Just
Yeah.
go away, shoo shoo, shoo shoo.
Well, this leads into a tools to live by presented by Veyer Watches. Veyer Watches, not only Veyer Watches, but VeyerWatches.com/surf splendor is the portal that saves you 15%.
Hate. This is exactly the lead in Vayer wanted.
Exactly. Controversial lead in. This more relates to the influencers, Instagram accounts and YouTube accounts that we were talking about that don't lead with surfing specifically. So Veyer watches, by the way, American made, ocean ready, waterproof guaranteed. So that's kind of, if that's not a selling point, I don't know what is.
I mean, they're the finest watch that you can honestly own these days.
At a fraction of what it would have cost you 10 years ago when it was just all conglomerate giant companies. So
Yep.
direct to consumer. All right. Tools to live by. Dear DLS and Chaz, I'm new to the grit, but I have listened to DLS on Surf Splendor and I often read Beach Grit. I love to go back to old grit episodes and learn the context behind sound clips like I like turtles and keep work. I truly enjoy every episode. Thank you. I'm a forever intermediate, sometimes lower advanced, and I am not proud of it. Not because I have low self esteem or I'm negative towards myself. I just don't feel the need to obsess about an activity that I am at best lower advanced. And when the pros or local legends are in the lineup, I'm back to intermediate. I certainly don't feel compelled to start a surfing meme Instagram account or post an abundance of video diaries or general complaints, nor do I review surfboards or that I have zero business reviewing or that I can barely ride. Or worse yet, obsess on Instagram about how I've always been a surfer, but never ever post surf footage of myself because surprise, surprise, I look like a kook and despite the fact that I've always been a surfer. It's very strange how some of these dudes, by the way, they're always men with these types of accounts, always seem to never post themselves surfing, yet they call themselves lifelong surfers. Crazy how they have no problem using surfing as a vehicle for their Instagram success, but them surfing is the least of what you see on their platform. I'm sure many of them are talented. Wait a second. I'm sure many other sports have these types of fans that don't necessarily have a talent for their sport, but use the sport as a vehicle to engage fans, and that's okay. However, surfing is different. In my opinion, it's an art, not a sport. No need to make yourself an entire social media personality. If, but if you do, you better rip and show us that you rip. So, what is the criteria for calling yourself a lifelong surfer? I'm just trying to make sense of all of this. This sort of reminds me of the barrel or gnaw you guys did about calling yourself a waterman. So, what about calling yourself a lifelong surfer? Making it known that you've always been a surfer, putting it in your IG bio or handle, but posting no evidence to corroborate. Um, it's probably because you are kooky. By the way, I don't want to mention any specific accounts or people because I don't want to direct attention towards them, but they know who they are. You know who they are. We all know. And we all know because you can't hide behind the kooky clips of you surfing forever. Apologies for the long email. It's just that last week's episode got me thinking about these types of things more than usual. I've even seen some of these type of accounts receive attention from known surf personalities, and it just makes me feel weird. We can all agree that surfing in itself is in a weird state right now, and that there are countless of discussions about the state of surfing that stem from what I've mentioned in this email. I can see why Chaz titled his YouTube segment, I Hate Surfing. I don't blame him. Keep work, Miguel. Personally, I feel attacked by this email.
Well, you know who should feel attacked is Nathan Florence. I think this thing was directed solely at Nathan Florence and Koa Rothman, and you guys should do better, A. And that's what I'm going to say about you. But in reality, yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? With this whole business of is exactly right, Miguel. Thank you so much for the email first. And exactly right, it is an art form. If you are a crappy artist, then you gotta lead with being a crappy artist. I remember when we did the Surf Ranch Media Day, that was probably almost 10 years ago now, right? Or
2018.
2018. So not 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 6 years ago, not even close to 10 years ago, 6 years ago. In any case, we did the Surf Media Day at Surf Ranch. And I think Derek had cause or reason or something to post his clip. Not that Derek Riley is not a, proud out surfer guy, like look at me rip, but there was some reason where he had to. And I thought, well, my clip is not nearly as good as yours, Derek, but I gotta post it too. Not because I think it's good. Do not get me wrong, but because I can't hide behind not posting clips of myself surfing, right? It just is what it is. And there's a freedom, I think, to being honest with who you are and how you surf. Like, I think it's maybe easier if you're already a surf personality, quote, end quote, like me. Like, I got to be out anyway. So it's just better if anybody knows, yeah, I don't have to say it. You can look. I'm not very good. I am a lifelong surfer who more or less stinks at surfing. There's a lot of reasons for that. Grew up in Oregon, blah, 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 blah. It's whatever. But there's no excuse. I am a stinky surfer. Uh, if you are an IGer or all this and you're really flexing, you got to start posting clips because, again, to Miguel's point, this is an art. And if you're a crappy artist, I need to know.
So back to the conversation about Felipe being world champ and not being able to surf big waves. When I got into surfing, ripping was a qualifier for even having an opinion about anything happening in surfing.
Yes.
If you didn't rip, you shut up, you studied up, tried to learn more about surfing and, learn about technique.
But you keep your mouth closed.
And then you waited for others to explain what was cool, what was hard about surfing, what was innovative about a turn that somebody did. You know what I mean? Like you did not pipe up until you had some authority, basically, by ripping. And so all of that has changed. And again, when I said I feel attacked, it's because I can I don't rip, but what I learned kind of as I got older was, man, those people who rip, turns out their opinions are pretty stupid. Turns out they're pretty shallow. Turns out they're pretty homophobic. Turns out they're pretty narrow-minded, or whatever. Not all of them, but ripping it shouldn't be the litmus test for the myriad of other things that exist in surfing and the culture of surfing. So now that we have a bunch of different media platforms or different ways to communicate, what I've realized is I have a certain skill set that is unique. And so, that's what I'm doing here, or whatever. And when I watch, there was I won't name the Instagrammer, I guess, but I was having a conversation with Devin Howard a few weeks ago, and I was like, God, did you see that clip? This account that's very popular, a guy posted a clip of himself getting his first tube, and it was a head dip. And he said in the caption, I've been surfing for 10 years and I just got my first tube. It wasn't a proper tube. Again, it was just a head dip, and it was really embarrassing, actually. So I saw the clip and I just thought, God, this is embarrassing. Why would you publish that clip? and then own it in the caption by saying you've been surfing 10 years and you just got your first barrel. And then I unfolded the comments, the accordion out, and they're all positive and they're all praise. And there is notable surf personalities in there praising. And then I thought to myself, wow, I am the outlier. Like, good on this guy for finally getting a tube. Good on him for embracing the fact that he's kooky by admitting that it's been 10 years and, this is where he's at. Like, this is a very realistic assessment of his own skills. And I guess good on everybody else for encouraging and celebrating and just enjoying what it is. I am the curmudgeonly, outlying old dude who is negative about all of it.
I mean, but it's essential, right? Like, how does anything get better if everyone is like the critic is an essential part of an ecosystem in order to move any art along. If there was no art critics and everybody who picked up a paintbrush and, canvas, then your Picassos and your Cezannes and your Degas get lost in the flood of everything is great, right? Like
Yeah.
when everything is great, then nothing is great. Everybody knows this, right? And so you need critics to say, yes, but, or this is better than this, or whatever, right? And I think when it comes to surfing, I think you can be a good critic without being a good artist, right? There is such thing. I am
Yeah. I,
and I don't know that I'm a good critic, but I am like have a skill set, as you said. And when people get on to my various feeds and say, shut up, you are a Barney who stink at surfing, I used to think that has no bearing here on what I'm saying. Growing older now, I think you're probably right at some level. I shouldn't be opening my mouth so much, but it's what I do well. And so, take it or leave it, I guess. But understanding that is a valid criticism. I do not rip, and therefore my opinion on this, that, or the other thing is lesser. Fine. I'm okay there, right? It is what it is. I just think that there should be someone in there saying to this dude, you should feel if you're proud of this, if you're posting this as ripping, if you're not posting this as an honest, this is who I am, man. If you're posting it as look at this, dudes, then that's uncool.
they are the ones that I could think of are very self-aware about their own kind of limited talent. And I think like with a surfboard reviewer, for an example, it's almost or more applicable. It's almost more relevant to have a mediocre surfer reviewing surfboards because the vast majority of surfers that are going to be buying that board are mediocre surfers. To see Michael Ciamarella doing his board reviews on Stab, it's like he's basically a professional surfer. That
He
doesn't
rips.
relate to me. Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing too, I think about actual surfboard reviews is your feeling on a surfboard, the from the intermediate all the way up, from the beginner all the way up, I'm going to say to like lower advanced, your feeling on a surfboard is your own, right? Because Mikey Ciamarella or any board reviewer for that matter says, "Oh, it's got real burst off the bottom." It's got burst off the bottom if you're surfing it properly, right? If your feet are on the right spot and you're on the right wave and you're in the right spot on the wave, et cetera, then yes, I don't care about descriptors. Like the best to me board reviewer out there, and not that he does reviews on the performance, but he's just reviewing the board, is Ron from Board Porn, right? And Ron from Board Porn surfs well. I mean, he really has the backside three on stinking lock. But what Ron knows is boards. So Ron tells you everything you need to know. Now I apply that to what I know about myself, right? Because somebody actually writing it and telling me how it feels to me is completely like unless yeah, is more or less it's not applicable to me at all. Give me the dimensions, give me the leaders, I guess, give me the fin setups, give me this, give me general. I know what that board does good on, right? I know fishes. Oh, sick, look at that fish. I'm going to paddle that out at double overhead, point break. No, like any surfer worth their salt knows where a board goes.
I think the broader thing that Miguel is tapping into and that I've kind of assessed on my own or had to reckon with on my own is there's now a cacophony of surf commentators from board reviews to just what we're doing to whatever, vloggers, um, that is mediocre talents, and it somehow dilutes all of the meaning and the culture. It's like the experts are almost the minority, and now it's like, I don't know, like if Lauren or just somebody random comes across surf related content on Instagram, the odds are it's some Barney explaining something who really almost doesn't have any authority to be explaining what it is.
Yeah. Uh-oh, David Lee Scales. We opened the floodgates. We helped open the floodgates. We weren't the first through those floodgates, but we were through for sure.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, totally.
It's
But that's,
really it's oversaturated with kooks. Like the kooks are running the asylum at this point.
the problem is what the problem is the democratization
Yes.
of media is the problem. Is that everybody now can make a YouTube just because you can, should you? Anybody can make an Instagram account. Anybody can do this stuff. And it's great that everyone has tools. But again, there's just too much noise. There is too much noise right now. And there's too much noise with no hoops.
Mhm.
Like or dislike what we do here, there is a good amount of listeners, right? Which is proof in the pudding. There is advertisers, there is other things, like or dislike my writing. I've published 4 books, and those go through publishing houses. They're not self-published, right? So my agent first had to
Vetting.
read it. The buyer at the publishing house had to read it. The goes through so many different layers where there's just no layer on. I think those layers, gatekeepers, we like to call them, David Lee Scales,
Yeah.
are important. And there's no gatekeepers now. So it's just that we're in the era of free for all.
And the ultimate gatekeeper is an audience that either, gives it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And what's shocking, I think, today, and Miguel's point probably, is some of the kookiest content creators where it feels like there's no substance and there's no value necessarily, and there's no unique insights and there's no talent, are gaining the most views.
I
And
mean,
that's the shocking topsy turvy point that we're at right now in surfing.
are you talking about Ben Graff?
No, actually, I'm not. But
Yeah,
there's others. I mean, he is the tip of the spear, I think, originally
but
5 years ago.
But
But
here's the thing about Ben Gravy. Ben Gravy had a skill, and Ben Gravy is not a bad surfer. Like Ben
right,
Gravy's whole
right.
shtick, I may used to have been annoyed with it. Now I think I give Ben Gravy the 2 pineapple thumbs up of like, you go at it, man. Like you fully have developed
Yeah.
your own look, feel, and are doing your own thing. And I completely understand and applaud. I don't necessarily watch, but I follow Ben on Instagram, and I'm never that annoyed when I come to a Ben Gravy clip. I'm never like, I don't hate follow Ben. I
No,
enjoy Ben's content.
totally. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I've come around to him as well. But he was the first. And now there's a bunch who kind of follow in a similar fashion who have even less talent, let's say.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, I think maybe Miguel, it's time to get off Instagram. If you're this enraged by it, maybe that is the ultimate advice. He did end on a more high note, I would say, and he said, "P.S. My final thought regarding last week's episode about calling your um, calling your spouse your quote partner. I totally agree. Husband or wife, 100%. Same sex relationship. You guys need to get to work figuring out what to call yourselves, because partner is not it. No question there. However, there is one way that a couple could consider themselves partners, and it seems appropriate. And here it goes. My grandmother, who is a widow going on 15 years, recently caught up with her college sweetheart, who's also been a widow for more than a decade. They began seeing each other regularly over the past year. Today, they are together. They've rekindled something that they had many moons ago. It's beautiful to witness, in my opinion. They already had a whole life with their spouses, their children, their grandchildren, etc. Now they keep each other company. Perhaps they are partners or companions in similar terms.
Okay, I will grant this, except it does need to come with the caveat end of life partner. This is my end of life partner because li- like I totally get like my grandma also like was married, you know, have 4 kids, blah 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 blah. husband or my grandpa, died tragically. And then she went on a couple years and then same diff, right? You're lonely, met this dude. But in the context kind of how things went, was kind of forced to marry him, but it was weird and it was a weird wedding. And it's weird when old people get married. Let's be honest. Like ship has sailed. You don't need to get married if you're an old person. Uh, so there does need to be a category. I'm going to go end of life partner.
Old people though sometimes are like have like a dogmatic view on religion, and so like they're not willing to live together or have sex or whatever unless they get married. So I think that's where those weddings come in.
I mean, maybe, and you are probably certainly right, but I wonder how much the physical, let's be honest, is part of that dynamic where it really is more of a partnership. It's more we are gonna keep each other not lonely. There's gonna be eyes on in case one of us falls. Like that does seem like a business partnership. It
In
is
case
your
one of us falls. It is true though. I mean, it's a real thing.
yeah.
But I think the physicality, you might be underestimating it a little bit. I've thought about this a lot, and I would love for listeners, do we have any 90-year-old listeners, call in and let
We
us
did
know
we
what your
did have
sex
a
life is
who
like?
who emailed in the 76-year-old or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's different though. I mean, 70s are different than 90s.
That's true,
Um,
but 70, if I recall, he was upper 70s. Maybe he was 74.
I'm still curious to know about his sex life too, to be perfectly honest. Um, but that does, I've this conversation has come up over the years, like retirement communities have the greatest incident of sexually transmitted diseases. Um, there's one man for every seven women, and they don't use or protect condoms because they're not worried about birth control, but they're transferring diseases. So yeah, it is an interesting, very interesting topic, but I don't think they're not having sex. I think they're having sex at a lesser frequency. Maybe libido wanes as you get older, but I think that they are absolutely still getting physical.
Still then, end of life partner though, I'm going to rubber stamp that as okay.
Okay. Boom.
But you got to say the whole thing. You got to say, "Hello, I am with Mary. She's my end of life partner."
Okay. What if though they live, maybe they have multiple end of life partners? I'm not saying
Sure.
like
You can break up with an end of life partner. It's not like this is you're not saying this is my forever partner or this is
it,
my till a grave partner.
you're kind of implying it's the end of they're going to see you through till the end of life.
I mean, you're theoretically seeing each other through at the ends of your life, but like you can have multiple of those, right? This is
Okay.
not like this is my partner all the way till the end of my life. No, it's
Okay.
just my end of life partner.
All right. Well, I like it. Let's go to commercial break and then we'll come back with Barrel or Not. Rocketmoney.com/surf. Just this week, my wife figured out she was paying a subscription for Showtime, but then also paying for Paramount Plus, which includes Showtime for free. That's precisely what Rocket Money was designed for. A modern tool that meticulously tracks the details that we easily get distracted from. It's a finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your monthly spending, and helps you lower your bills. It gives you freedom by helping you see your subscriptions in a simple dashboard and alerts you about hidden fees or increases. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things that you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/surf. Calm the clutter in your head, simplify the tedium of your financial life, and find freedom through rocketmoney.com/surf. All right, Chaz, welcome back.
Great.
From Mexican food to phallic surfboards to homosexuality to old people sex.
And now we have a third, I mean a fifth. This like the controversial show to end all controversial shows. Is that a Grateful Dead t-shirt you're wearing?
No, it's not.
But it's the
It's a
Grateful Dead logo.
it's not the Grateful Dead logo. I mean,
It is I mean, they ripped out they took the same lightning bolt off the dude's skull and then put it in there.
well, I'll tell you what, our good friend Britt Merrick might be applauding you right now for identifying because he's a big Grateful Dead fan.
Is he?
Yeah. And
He
this is a
fully ripped it.
Channel Island shirt. I think this is the Too Happy design.
Great. I love it. And I love Brit. But guess what, Brit Merrick? I hate the Grateful Dead so bad. I almost can't hate something worse than the Grateful Dead.
Wow.
And I would love to go. I think we're gonna have to get Brit on the show. And Brit and I are gonna have to go toe to toe in an old school like debate where you give us each, opening statements and then back and forth, like a real proper like debate club style podcast on this one.
Well, last time we did that, it didn't go so well with Ashton. But yeah, let's try. Um, that would be, I think that would be more entertaining than hearing you guys talk about surfing even.
Yeah, I
But
hate the Grateful Dead. Hate them. Hate every
well,
song. Hate all their hair. Hate their followers. Lived in Oregon when they kept coming through and would see their hateful bus, would see every. I hate them. I hate the Grateful Dead.
are you
The
gonna
hateful
watch
Dead.
are you gonna watch your buddy Jonah Hill's film,
Oh yeah, for
biopic?
sure. For sure.
Okay, cool. Well, what I was gonna say is after all of those topics, let's go ahead and get into religion too while we're here.
Let's do it.
I'm going to play this call just as a kind of opener to our first barrel or nah. This will segue into it. So here we go.
Billy Scales and Chaz listening to the grit.
By the way, the call gets a little bit garbled, but in a second, he's going to reference the 2% movement that we discussed at the end of last show. Chloe Andino and the 2%.
26 Andino and the 2%. And is it hypocritical? Yada, yada, yada. Come on. Look at his Instagram. The very first thing he has written there is Jesus Family Surf. Okay, then he goes on a tirade and drops the F-bomb 18,000 times, blasting the surf industry, which he benefited off of for many, many years. So yeah, the whole thing's hypocritical. He's hypocritical. It's hypocritical, and it's lame. It's lame. It's just lame. And you know what? It's Outer Known 2.0. The shit is way too expensive. It's ridiculous. It's a money grab. Later.
So I'm going to use that to segue into barrel or nah, identifying as religious, but openly using curse words.
Errol David Lee Scales. How do you think I live my life? And I try to use them less these days. But yeah, I mean, I think in context, I think ugly, I think cussing in the life of a young religious man or woman has its place, right? Like you grow up and bad words are bad. Then you move, you get a little older and they become rebellious. And so you start peppering in some bad words, right? And then you maybe use some more bad words. And then you start experimenting with like I don't know, the palette of bad words that you were denied as a child. And you're kind of overboard. Now you are a Val cusser, right? You're doing it all wrong. Like people who don't cuss and people who don't smoke, you can see them a mile away. When somebody's at a party and somebody busts out a pack of cigarettes and the one person who takes it all super awkwardly and like puffs on it, you can know. And same with people like when they're, oh man, I was just in the car the other day and somebody was going in front of me slow and I was just shit. I was just, shit. Like it's just awkward and it's incorrect and it's bad, right? So anyway, you go through your vowel cussing phase and then either now you reach the inflection point where your cussing develops into a art, right? You use it correctly, you hold it back because the overuse of cussing is a problem, right? These are supposed to be powerful words. And when powerful words are dropped, scattered too often, they lose their power. All to say, then you come around to wherever you end up, right? In Kolohe's case, I'm going to say this is not at all hypocritical. Even specifically, his rant against the surf industry has our dear listener not read the Gospels where Jesus went into the temple and overturned the money tables and started whipping everybody and yelling and carrying on. Now, I don't know that he was cussing, but there was definite anger and emotion, which is what Kolohe is exhibiting here. And maybe it is a little bit, I read that thing, I read Kolohe's thing, and it does have a lot of non-native speaker in the way the cusses are being used, right? There
He's in the Val
is
phase of his cussing.
he is in the Val phase of cussing, but I'm going to allow Kolohe to move through this Val phase. You end up one or two places in my experience. You end up as a really refined cursor, or you end up using it a lot less.
Well, as it relates to identifying as religious, I think that is it's a problem for me when I see somebody who has like the Christian sticker on their car and then they are flipping somebody off. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
that's true.
Like, and so that's I think what the caller's issue is like, look, Kaloe, you go to his bio line and you see he's identifying as this thing first and foremost.
Yes.
And then when your behavior is reflecting something that isn't congruous with that thing, it becomes a little dissonant, you know?
Dicey. I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Except in this specific case, though, I like if Kolohe was out, Jesus, family, God, and then but everybody knew that Kolohe has four other partners, including Gabriel Medina, that we would, in that context, and it's like, oh, I mean, I guess good that you're bold about your faith, but also you got to kind of live it too, right? But in this specific case, I don't think this is hypocrisy.
I I like what you said about the evolution of cussing and then reserving them for making an impactful statement. I would just warn or caution people to really be flying the flag of like whatever your religion is as your overarching identity because you are going to fall short of the prime example of that thing. So maybe just live by example. And if you slip up, you know, then you're not necessarily held to the cross, so to speak.
To the high standard. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's good advice, David Lee Scales.
Okay. All right.
Tools to
Well,
live by.
I don't know if we've barrel or not. I'm going to go no barrel on that.
I'm going barrel.
Okay. Uh, barrel or not? Wearing surf-specific attire in public? Question mark. Board shorts are the most common, but I've seen Instagrams with guys wearing their changing ponchos at the grocery store. It's only a matter of time until we see hooded rash guards at dinner, surf leggings into club, or a barista wearing webbed gloves. And of course, whether this becomes acceptable all depends on your answers here. Barrel or not, surf attire in public.
No barrel, and I'm going to go hard no barrel here too. I know we've all sinned and fallen short in this case, where specifically when we are on a surf vacation, let's say we're in, Cabo, driving to the beach, blah de blah, surf, you're driving back, you stop at restaurant and get food, and you are in your trunks and maybe even shirtless in the restaurant. It's like we need to stop that. That's not cool. That's not good. I'm going to say specifically in tropical surf locales, I'm going to allow the board short and nothing else. You can do board short, with a fresh t-shirt or a button up or a whatever. But if you're wearing your board shorts and your hooded rash guard, no. I'm going to say hooded rash guard is never to be seen in public other than in the water. Board shorts, I'm going to give it an okay.
It's a slippery slope. You got to
You're
go
right.
hard yes or hard no. I'm going hard no on this one because it's only a matter of time. If you allow one thing, it slips into all these other things. And so you got to go. And first of all, you've changed drastically because you used to have a no shorts in public policy, full stop. And I think that is the right policy still.
It's true, except I'm picturing all the times that I've been in Cabo, coming back from surfing East Cape or whatever, driving into town and being starving. And I didn't bring a change of clothes. I was surfing. And I'm not going to a fine dining establishment, but I am in public ordering my 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila before I end up on the floor.
Thing is, it's just impractical too. Like the board shorts you're talking about, you got to
They're
deal with
chafy at that
chafing.
point. They're
You got
chafy.
to you got to deal with chafing. Now you have to hold your wallet and your phone in your hand because they don't fit in that pocket, or they'll get sandy or waxy if you put them in
It's
your
true.
pocket. So it's just the wrong choice all the way around. You bring a change of shorts, you swap out.
You've converted me. I'm a hard no.
Okay,
Hard no
good.
barrel.
No barrel wearing surf attire in public. Final barrel or not? Coming off of Michael Dunphy's Instagram 2 days ago, pulling someone's leash.
Like seeing that made me so joyful. Every bit of that was a joyful clip. And I failed to tag, I put it on my own Insta and failed to tag the filmer. I can't remember who it is. It's whoever it was. That
Yeah.
whole clip was done so well. Like, not only the fact that they captured the leash pull itself was a work of art, right? And for those who haven't seen it, you can go on to, I don't know, surf journalist. I know it's
At
there.
Michael Dunphy or
Not
yeah.
Michael Dunphy. Where, it's like a tubby longboarder dude who clearly, was out in front. You don't see the drop in, but is out in front of Michael Dunphy, who comes up on him, gives the leash such a good yank, like buries his rail to provide extra torque for the leash pull, pulls the dude right off, and then almost slams a dude in the face who is like paddling out, taking out two birds with one stone, as they say. But the way the clip is shot, it's not just you see it and then it's done. Like, the filmer zooms in on Dunphy's face as he's pulling. He pulls back. He zooms in on the longboarder as he's falling, all in slow motion. He zooms in again as Dunphy almost drills the dude paddling out. I mean, the whole thing, it's like a real work of art, but made me so happy and made me think the leash pull we got to bring it back full stop. It is the best. Hard to execute. You got to be
Totally.
like down there grabbing the leash. Hard to pull. Like, you can just as easily send yourself over the falls trying to pull if you don't do what the Dunphy did, like really backload it. So really hard to execute and deeply shameful for the person who has it happen to them, but not damaging, not physically damaging, just emotionally damaging.
Totally. Yeah. And Dunphy's was a perfect execution of it. And the other zoom in that you didn't mention is Dunphy sticking his tongue out while
Yeah.
he's doing it. Dunphy's like fully like, ah, like it looks like Dunphy's holding a shotgun. That's the position that he has because you're right. He could fall off the board if he did it any other way.
Because that was a
But
chunky dude. He could have taken Dunph right out.
exactly. So Dunphy's execution was comedic, perfectly timed. He's at presumably snapper. It's on the, the soup
Goldie
along
somewhere.
the super bank somewhere. So it's a long right hand and it's a waist high wave. And Dunphy has enough time to like fully grab the leash with both hands and pull it like in a shotgun motion to really eject the surfer off of his board. So it's like if somebody's going to burn you, what are you going to do? Get mad? You're on the Gold Coast.
Yell
Like
at
it's
him.
guaranteed. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're guaranteed to get burned there. But what you can do is make an incredibly funny Instagram clip. And so shout
exactly.
out to Dunphy and shout out and yes, Beryl to bringing back the leash pull from Lance Burkhart to now. It needs to be, I mean, it is a very, like you said, emotionally damaging, shaming way to inflict your revenge on the surfer who is in front of you without you can't even get mad about it. You know what I mean? It can't turn into a fight at that point. It is just shameful and hilarious.
The second greatest leash pull I've ever witnessed was in at Pipeline during a contest. And in that contest, I think it was either Siege or Damo, but I think it was Damo. And Siege, please call in if it was you. Surfing against the dreaded what's his dude from Dean Morrison, Dean Dingo Morrison. And so I was watching this heat from the sand there, and Damo, let's call it Damo, was like paddling for a wave and then just like went, and it was a big one, like a proper pipe wave, and just went over the handlebars, just like paddle. And then you just see him like tumble, like gets blown up. And I was like, whoa, that's weird. Uh, and then see him come in, go to the judges, whatever zone. He's standing there at the base. There's like full Damo style. Like, like just started popping off in his good Floridian accent about how Dingo yanked his leash.
And did he get what did the judges do about it?
Nothing. I mean, I think if Dame would have been a North Shore heavy, then there would have been
Yeah.
something. But if I recall, there was not even any. It was like, oh, no, what are you gonna do?
Dingo surfed in Paul Fisher's free surf heat,
Sure
by
did.
the way.
There's no more dirty dogs like Dingo. Dingo had like a reputation as being a dirtball in the lineup, like doing bad things like that,
But
like leash pulling in a heat. I feel that everybody, either they are so good at it now that you don't see it at all, or nobody's doing like dirty pool anymore out there.
no, that's where and the nickname Dingo came from. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, well, yeah, the leash pull, I really haven't had it happen to me in 20 years. But when I was first getting into surfing and my friends and I were, just reprobates, basically screwing around with each other constantly, I had it happen to me a few times. Nothing boiled my blood more because you were like really amped to get this wave, whatever
You're in the
wave's coming
moment.
to you.
You
Yeah,
were
in
you
the
were
moment.
looking down the line.
And it's like, this is our life was surfing. And so now the wave is coming to me. I'm in position. I'm going. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do. And they stopped me from doing it with a leash pull. I mean, I turned around at times and wanted to knock people's teeth out.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing more infuriating than that.
Because it's like the ultimate like lack of energy getting released. Like we're because
Totally.
already in your mind, you are surfing that wave, right? You are like, and then not being able to do it, and not because like there's a similar but not even close to the level of frustration if you blow a good wave, right? If you
Yeah.
you got this wave and you're blah, 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 and you go for the pop up and your hand slips and you're like bonk, and then you like, I fully blew that wave. But when you didn't blow it, when that wave got blown for you from behind unexpectedly.
It is
Oof.
out of sync with nature. And it's
Yeah.
like there's nothing that would make this happen in the real world except that villain is taking this away from me.
I hope that longboarder had the similar amounts of vitriol in himself towards dear Michael Dunphy.
He had it coming though. I mean,
Yeah.
he clearly burned Dumpy on that thing. By the way, we couple of feedback from last week. Remember, we were talking about the surfer. The guy called in, or maybe emailed in, and said that he got. Oh, it was actually calling. He said that he got run over,
Oh yeah.
and he was trying
Yes.
to
I
come
was
up with a.
waiting for, because I feel that this is there. We didn't, there's some added thing, which I've been waiting all week for this.
Yeah, he called back in, and I'm not going to play his call. He said that it was a very, it was one of the outlier examples of where it is the surfer's fault. The rider was wrong. He said the surfer was paddling into a right hand point break. And so as the paddler, he started paddling into the impact zone in towards the whitewash so that the surfer could make the drop and go down the line unimpeded. But the surfer fumbled the takeoff. The surfer fumbled the takeoff, so it actually put him right over into position of the paddler. And then the surfer who fumbled the takeoff came up out of the water and tried to blame the paddler still.
Oh,
Like,
that's rude. No,
like,
no,
oh,
no, no. When you gotta,
like I fumbled the takeoff because I saw you paddling this way or
no,
something like that.
you don't fumble the takeoff into somebody.
Right.
Like if somebody's paddling, yeah, that's on the surfer. So the rider is right unless he's fumbling.
I was wondering though, did the caller call back in and create a scenario that made him vindicated in
I
the
don't,
eyes of the
if he
grid?
did,
Like,
that's a lot of brain power, because that did not come up. That I didn't think about that when we talked,
yeah.
and I wouldn't have thought about that. I knew there was something though. This guy had the tone of voice, and the whole way he was describing it, like it was really what dissonant, or the discordant, right? The way he was talking was, this guy knows what he's doing and talking
Okay.
about, and the way he's talking about this is not, there's got to be some missing thing. I thought about it all week, that there was
Okay.
some missing thing that was not expressly stated, because this guy knew better. And so
Yeah.
that makes all the sense in the world now, that Takeoff fumbler and then fumbled and tried to assign blame.
Okay. Well, benefit of the doubt to the caller and the listener. Um, Final feedback was great Gerolsteiner feedback from a guy who's married to a German girl. And he's like, dude, you're right. That Gerolsteiner is the best. And you go to Germany, anybody's home, that's what they serve. They don't serve flat water. They don't serve tap water. It is Gerolsteiner across the board. He goes, it's 50 cents a bottle in Germany. It's crazy that it costs $3 here, but the minerals are all good for you. So it's not, lots of times you see purified water, and what that means is they're taking all the solids out of the water, and sometimes they're then putting back, minerals or things, electrolytes, whatever. Gerolsteiner's naturally occurring minerals, really high mineral content. It's all very good for you. So applaud.
Leave it to the Germans.
Exactly. Okay, well, hey, great show, Chaz Smith. Go to beachgrit.com, go to surfsplendorpodcast.com if you want to find everything that we discussed in today's show. Is there anything else that you need to discuss or promote?
Britt Merrick, I'm waiting for you. This is a straight call out, Britt. You've got my number. You've got David Lee Scales' number. I feel we'd really we'd really break through with this one because there's more Grateful Dead fans and more Grateful Dead haters than there are surfers who have ever lived. And so I feel that we can really a heavyweight bout between me and Britt on the merits of the Dead.
And unlock a whole new audience with this conversation too. We will go mainstream with this conversation.
Big time. This will be the big time.
I think he literally like followed them around.
Oh, I can't wait for this. I can't wait. This might end in a coffee table jumping.
I hate to, maybe I'm misspeaking. I shouldn't even paint him with that brush like you did, Devin.
I can
Howard,
see
2
the
weeks
logo.
ago.
I know that is the direct skull or the direct lightning bolt off of the Grateful Dead skull that Britt then, he removed the Grateful Dead stuff, but he kept the lightning bolt.
Okay, I can now
Great shirt.
read the logo on the back of the shirt. It's happy every day is the board model that goes with this logo.
Which is also very Grateful Dead-ish, right?
True.
Good vibes, etc.
True. Okay, man. Well, we'll get to the bottom of that in a future show. Shots fired. Beachgrit.com, surfsplendorpodcast.com. Until next week.
Keep work.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Good show. Thank you.
All right. See you next week.
Yep.